Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored with Steve Taplin. Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored, where tech leaders drop the filters and just tell it like it is. I'm your host, Steve Taplin, a serial tech entrepreneur, a guy who's launched 30 companies, had 20 of those fail, but scaled 10 of those to success. And I turned that roller coaster of a ride into my book. It's called Fail Hard, Win Big. And this is where I teach people how to turn failure into your biggest competitive advantage and how custom software played a defining role in every win. Now I'm the CEO of Sonatify Technology. We're a nearshore software engineering firm helping scale existing engineering teams. And today I am joined by Raj Bakhru, who has a fun background for the M&A folks out there. He's CEO of BlueFlame AI, which was recently acquired. He has been a developer, a cybersecurity expert, investment banking and M&A guy. This will be a fun one. Raj, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Steve. Love the show. Very excited to be with you, and excited to talk with everyone.
Well, let's start off and take a few minutes and talk about the journey of your career. And don't forget to talk about the two great exits you've had.
Thanks. Yes, we've been very, very fortunate in that regard. I started my career in technology as a developer, like many of those listening here. Came out of school, computer science background, was at Goldman building quant systems, research trading, FX algos, all sorts of fun stuff. Funnily enough, back then our big project was what we quote unquote called high frequency trading in the quant funds. Back then, I'm dating myself now. Back then, high frequency trading was going from monthly rebalancing to daily rebalancing.
Well, when you say quant at Goldman, it just makes me think of the show Billions and how they had their quants.
Yeah, it's amazing. Having been in the industry, you have to watch Billions. It's amazing.
That's right. Great show.
But obviously, over time, high frequency went from daily to hours to minutes to milliseconds to nanoseconds. And I got to be a part of all of that fun. So I was at the quant group at Goldman, was later at Highbridge Capital, Kepos Capital, quant global macro firm, doing more latency sensitive stuff by that point. Lots of really cool tech that we had built out from a prop perspective to support quantitative trading. At that point, it was at a point in my career where I said, if I don't start a company now, I'm never going to do it. Launched a cybersecurity firm, just recognizing back then, 2014, 2015, folks didn't have the right perspective on cyber. They didn't realize it was a major risk, and particularly in the hedge fund and private equity world, it was just totally overlooked. And we were very timely with that perspective. The whole world picked up on the cyber threat in 2015-ish timeframe. The SEC started putting out a lot of risk alerts around it, starting to focus on it as well. So the company started doing quite well. There was a GRC firm, governance risk compliance firm called ACA, that was predominantly actually staffed by former SEC folks, and they were providing consulting services to a number of the private equity and hedge fund firms out there. They were private equity backed by New Mountain Capital, and came to us and said, we have a great cross-sell story with you guys. Let's do this together. And that was our first exit. We paired up with them, built a transaction structure where, worked out for both of us. We, going into that transaction, I thought it was an exit. I thought I was going to be out of there in 2 years. And it was a great place to work. We loved it. We had a lot of fun, got to work with a lot of really great people, both on the technology side of things and, the broader org. Ended up staying there for 10 years and did a bunch of different things over that 10-year career. I was running a business unit. I was deep in cyber. We were working closely with our clients on emerging cyber threats in the space. We were the largest provider of cyber consulting services to the buy side, but also had a lot of fun in building out other solutions at ACA. So got to go build our reg tech solutions, regulatory technology solutions, inherited a dev team of about 150 or 200 folks globally to do that. Got to eventually go run our M&A and corporate strategy, which was not something that was natural to me as a technologist.
That is a different twist.
Yeah, it was definitely a twist. The role opened up. I had a great relationship with our private equity owners, had been assisting on the M&A front, and just felt like it was the opportunity to jump in and do it. So I ended up running our M&A and corporate strategy as our chief strategy officer for a few years. chief innovation officer for a few years. Did about a dozen acquisitions with them with our private equity backers. By that point, we were on our second and third private equity backers with that company. So got to experience a good bit of both the private and public world. Really enjoyed everything I got to do on the business front, building out, running teams. ACA over that time period grew from 200 people to 1,800 people. Uh, and then AI came around and sort of given the quantitative background, given everything we knew about the workflows in public and private markets, we said, this is a once in a lifetime transformation that's about to happen. We need to be at the forefront of this and doing something really entrepreneurial. So we launched BlueFlame literally 2 years ago today. It's our birthday, our anniversary of our launch today. We started with a few of us in a garage like most, and today we're about 70 people. We were acquired about 3 months ago, and we're providing AI solutions to that same client base, the buy side. Everyone involved in M&A is starting to work with investment banks. Really fun story to be at the forefront of, a once in truly 25-year technology transformation that's
So,
happening.
Raj, let me get this straight. I'm a guy who had to start 30 companies to have 10 successes. You're a guy who started two and had two successes.
Well, if you're gonna go at it, you might as well win. No, I'm totally kidding. We've been very fortunate, and we've been very specific and pointed with what we go after. We know our niche. We know the investment management community. We know the M&A space. Nothing that we ever did was wide horizontal moonshot. It was always, let's take this space, win this space. We know how to do that. We have the networks to do it. We have the know-how of the workflows in the space to do it, and that's worked for us.
So, tell us more about Blue Flame AI, which is now acquired by Datasite.
Yeah. So we launched 2 years ago, just recognizing obviously LLMs were going to completely transform the space, and that's largely because if you think about in the private markets world, so this is private equity, venture capital, private credit, investment banks, everyone dealing with transactions. All of the data that goes into these transactions is unstructured data, just masses of PDFs and Excel files and Word documents. Uh, and you've been through this obviously dozens of times at this point, so you've seen this firsthand. These documents are treasure troves of information. And if you're a private equity firm that's been around for 10, 20, 30 years, you're sitting on masses of this information over the course of, the lifetime of your funds.
All sitting in PDFs and Excel files.
Yep, all of those IC memos, investment committee memos, all of the diligence work that you've done, every transaction, every deal that you've looked at, there's SIMs, these marketing documents. All of this information was never accessible to you in the past, and now LLMs come around, and all of it's massively accessible. So we knew that was going to be a big piece of what we had to get after. Is let's provide access to this treasure trove of firm history and information. We also knew, obviously, that the LLMs are great at being agentic API callers into third-party systems like CRMs. And a lot of these deals historically have been tracked in tools like CRMs. A lot of the communication obviously lives in things like email. And now the LLMs are opening access to these components. So we formulated BlueFlame around the concept of being able to aggregate all of this data together, provide that synthesis, the analysis layer, and then we fully recognize that last mile delivery for folks in this space is into new Word documents and new PowerPoint templates, and feeding obviously through chat iteratively with humans. So we built out interfaces and tools to provide all of the research, diligence, sourcing, business development workflows for this community, and in this particular niche that's really focused on what they do.
Gotcha. So, who are your clients? Are they A brokers, PE firms, all the above?
All of the above. We're at about 110 clients, maybe 120 clients. We're working with brand name private equity firms, brand name hedge funds, brand name investment banks. We can't disclose their names. There's a bunch on our website. I guess you could see them there, but a lot of the smartest and brightest minds in private markets are working with us.
Gotcha. Well, tell us about some current projects you're working on and how you guys are pushing innovation.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, LLMs and playing with this with generative AI technology is just a tremendous amount of fun. So we're getting after that in a bunch of different ways. The technology is moving so fast. I mean, I've
Yes, it is.
literally over a 20-year career, I've never seen 30-year career, I've never seen technology move this fast. So we're keeping pace with that, and that's a challenge. And it's also what's fun about this. We're building out the next generation of our agents. So we had our first generation of agents, did really cool stuff with, you know, data rooms and really cool stuff around sourcing of new investment ideas, uh, really cool stuff around research and understanding a given sector or a given company. Now we're building out the next generation of that, much more human in the loop, much more iterative, much more thoughtful about the process that it takes to execute its objective at the end of the day. We're building out deeper connectivity into financial market data. We're building out connectivity into all of the MCP suite of tools out there, MCP being, an emerging standard on interconnectivity. We're working on agents that operate against your inbox and understand deal flow that's happening in your inbox, working against the marketing documents coming in, the SIMs, working against the NDAs that are coming in, automatically redlining legal documents like NDAs. So just tons of really interesting, fun projects that we're doing that are very workflow driven for this particular client base. We leverage frameworks like jobs to be done, literally just take off task by task of, what does an M&A professional need to do and what can AI chip at in terms of each of those individual pieces of work.
Gotcha. Well, tell us about your software engineering team that's pulling off aggregating all this data in different sources and different formats and for different clients and
Yeah.
standardizing them.
Yes, it's not an easy task, and we're blessed by having a great team. I'm blessed by having a team that I've worked with for a long time leading that. So, one of the things that changes over the course of your career, as is you start early in your career without this network of folks that you've worked with before, and you have to hire cold, and you have to bring in all these folks off just an interview and not really knowing them, not having worked with them before. 20 years in, sort of who top talent is, where to find top talent, all of those things. So I'm blessed by having a great CTO that I've worked with since Goldman days, so 20 plus years that we've been working with.
Wow.
And he's built out an amazing team underneath him, former folks out of hedge funds and private equity firms who were doing tech work there, folks out of Amazon, folks out of really the best brands that you have out there. They're working at this every day. And I sort of think to myself, like, if I was a software developer, an early career software developer, if I wasn't doing this right now, it'd be like, you're missing the boat. What are you doing? You got to be working on this type of stuff right now. So
So what work model do you guys follow? Are you a remote company, hybrid?
we've been in office New York for the early part of our existence. And that was probably the right decision for us at that time because we're moving so fast and the collaboration that you can get in person is just unparalleled. The ability to walk up to clients, on Madison and go ask them questions and work with them collaboratively was just important. Now we're bigger and now we have more optionality on it. We have more global offices available to us. We have a larger team. So now we're bringing on teams pretty much everywhere. We just evaluated bringing on an entire team in Boston, even though most of us are in New York. We have a team in Minnesota. We have some folks who are remote. We have some folks in London. We're building out a team in Costa Rica right now. So really wherever we can find talent is the right answer, but still predominantly New York.
Gotcha. And how has your life changed for the better or for the worse in the 3 months since you've been acquired?
Mostly for the better. I should say entirely for the better. There is always overhead in having a corporate parent. That would be the only thing that everyone knows going into it. The teams that we're working with, as I had talked to you before, you go into any transaction not really knowing what you're getting into. It's a marriage, and it's a marriage
Right.
based off,
And it's a pretty quick dating process.
yeah, exactly. It's a marriage based off maybe 4 or 5 dates. And, you know, you think you know what's on the other side, you try to understand everything, you talk through it, etc. In this particular case, we did a whole lot of sort of background checking through the networks and things like that. So we got pretty good comfort pretty fast, but you never know what you're being told pre-deal is going to be what transpires post-deal.
True.
Thankfully in this case, and in my prior case, we've lucked out in that regard, and everything that was told to us pre-deal has manifested post-deal, and actually in some ways better than we had expected it would. So um, still maybe in the honeymoon period here at 3 months, but thankfully we're in a really good spot. We've loved working with the Datasite folks, got to know a lot of really great folks. They've been great about providing us with top tier staff that they have. So really just helping our growth and putting everything behind us because they know it's a really big strategic initiative.
So, Raj, for you, what is this acquisition doing for Blue Flame? Are you accelerating your roadmap as part of this acquisition, or what's it doing for you?
Yeah, so there's a massive investment that's coming behind us. And we had to make the decision during the deal process. Do we want to go to venture capital or do we want to go to someone like Datasite? And there's pros and cons around each, of course. I will say, I know you love VC. I hate the
Well,
VC model.
I, you can't put words in my mouth. When you raise money and everything has changed, and venture capital and private equity. When you have investors, they're not there to be your friends. They're
Yeah,
they're there to be your board, and
yeah, yeah.
as long as you make them money, they are your friends. But when times get tough, they lean on you. So there's pros and cons.
Yep, and that'll be true of a strategic acquirer too, right? They expect things out of us. What I don't love about VC, and VC has a role and does some really great things for companies out there, and has done some really great things for just general innovation in America. So I'm not bad mouthing the entire industry. It wasn't the right fit for us, and it wasn't the right fit for us for a variety of reasons. One of which being that I really struggle with partnering with a firm where their expected return on our investment is zero, right? To me, this is everything. I'm putting in a lot of my own personal money. Thankfully, over the course of the career, we were able to build our own wealth. We were able to invest a lot of that into our next incremental startup. I
Mhm.
couldn't have this fail. Like the idea that a venture firm is going into this and saying, we're actually good with 9 of our 10 investments failing and one of them making it, and we kind of don't care which of the 10 that is. That's not okay with me. Like I need to be that one that succeeds. So I wanted a partner that was
Plus, they want like 200% of your company.
so the dilution piece is a whole nother thing. So we did the math on it, and it just made more sense to pair up. And then you factor in the fact that Datasite brings some really interesting things to the table for us. In the fact that if you think about what's valuable for agentic AI, it's data. At the end of the day,
Mhm.
Datasite is the largest data room provider for M&A out there. They have access to more data rooms than anyone else in the world. They see more transactions than anyone else in the world. Pairing into the data room, obvious place for AI to play. It's where all of our clients want us to live. They want us to have really unique and differentiated access to that data. Secondly, DataSite's had a vision and a strategy around building out their own data assets beyond the data room. So they had acquired 2 firms, Grata and SourceGrub. And these are the largest private markets, call it firmographic databases out there. If I want to know
Okay.
something about landscaping companies in New Jersey, where I live, the best data source in the world is Grata, and they have a list of all the landscaping companies in New Jersey. And the reason this matters in the M&A world is if you think about what a lot of the transactions are out there. It's I want to go buy a big landscaping company in New Jersey, and then I want to go buy all the other little ones and roll up that into one big entity and get all the cost savings and synergies. And Grata serves as the database for doing that. The fact that Datasite owned Grata made a lot of the sourcing, agentic business development, deal execution workflows that we were building into BlueFlame that much better. So now we have unique and proprietary access to Grata. We have unique and proprietary access to the data rooms where our clients live. So that puts us in a really unique and differentiated spot altogether. So it just made a lot of sense. We were the puzzle piece to the Datasite Grata story, um, and that brought it all together. And we're seeing that manifest. Clients really love the
So
story.
it sounds like there's phenomenal synergies there. How has the integration process been? And from my experience, that can take up to 12 to 24 months to kind of fully integrate. How has that been going?
Yeah, it's been great. They recognize we're growing really fast. They're not trying to over integrate us and overburden us with corporate overhead, if you will. So we get the benefits of a number of the things that they have in place, right? Facilities, IT management, finance. But from a the front office, from a sales perspective, it's mostly them just helping us grow where we need to grow. So they have global sales teams. They have, more people in event marketing than we have in our entire firm, right? So we can leverage all of those resources to just grow faster.
I think one of the only things I like more than NFL football is A. So you're in a fun space, looking at deals, sorting through those mounds of data. What are some brutal lessons that you know now that you wish you would have learned earlier in your career?
Um, it's such a great question. There's so many that we've probably learned the hard way.
I've learned through failure. I don't know that there's a better way.
You got a whole book on it. I guess one lesson is you should write a book about all your failures.
There you go.
The thing that I think we did most poorly, if you will, across the course of our careers is taking credit for the things that others take credit at. And I've noticed this in a bunch of different ways, right? We pride ourselves on the technology we build. Build this really great technology wherever we are in past lives. And you sort of look at what competitors do and what they put out in market, and they start advertising like, "Hey, we built this really great feature," and they say it's the best thing since sliced bread, and you're like, "We've always had that feature, and that was like 5 minutes of work for us to build or whatever it is," and like we could have made a big splash about it and could have made a big deal and said, we had this amazing thing. We just didn't think to make such a big deal about it because, maybe even from a tech perspective, it wasn't the hardest thing in the world to do. But from a marketing perspective, they jump on it, they make a big deal about it. I saw something, even today, where they were talking about the fact that you could summarize a document in a mobile app. Like, well, if you could summarize a document in a desktop app, like, or a web app, like, why wouldn't you be able to summarize it in a mobile app? But that's actually a marketing splash, and like they're saying, hey, now we have a summary in a mobile app. And I'm like, that's super easy. I don't know, I don't understand this, but
What was the lesson there for you with
the
that?
lesson is take more marketing credit on the technology that you build, even if the technology is simple
Gotcha.
in your eyes. So that's a big one.
Well, and you have to laugh. Is there a company out there right now in any industry that doesn't have AI all over their marketing materials, web pages?
Yeah.
And I know some that can't even spell it. So, yeah, and I mean that's not new to AI. That back when e-business was around, then the cloud, which everyone's like, ooh. For those of us in the business, you're just like, that's just somebody else's data center. It's not this
Yep.
magical place in the sky.
Yep. Very magical.
But that's a good one. I mean, making sure to maximize your marketing around the technology features you have. What are some other ones?
Hiring is hard. I think that's one that, it's probably obvious to some extent, but we certainly went through earlier careers where you don't have these networks of folks that you can work with that are really good, or service providers like yourself that are really good that you can lead on. So then you end up, you do an interview, you do maybe even 4 or 5 rounds of interviews across 10 people, and you still don't know what you're getting at the end of the day. Like, the experience that you end up with is totally different. And until you've had them sort of in your office, working day in, day out, you just don't know what you bought. So I think that one's been a tough one at times, right? I hate having to let people go. That's like the worst feeling in the world to me, especially when they're good people, they're just not performing. So thankfully, we
I'm
don't have.
with you there. Even when people deserve it, when you think of the effect on their life, it's like, you got a business to run and, you're not cutting it. But yeah, that's never been a fun part of being an entrepreneur and a leader.
Yep, and it's the sucky side of being a CTO or a CEO or senior leader anywhere, is that you have to make those hard decisions. And if interviewing was perfect, you would never end up in that situation, or you would end up in it less often, right? If a business doesn't perform, you may still end up in that position. But um, thankfully, we've been in performing businesses our whole career. The difficulty of, I still remember everyone I've had to let go. Just, it sticks with you. It's a painful thing. Getting to certainty of, this is a great candidate for us, we want to keep them, is super important to me. So thankfully now we're at a point where I think we've mastered a lot of that. We're hiring mostly in network, right? So we're not hiring off the street, if you will, and cold and green. So that helps a lot. And then that really speaks to a broader point of, like, your personal network carries you later in career, right? If you built out the right networks and the right reputation over the first 10, 15, 20 years, you can leverage that tremendously over the next 15, 20 years.
Well, but not when you start getting really old, because then your network dies off. It's a constant thing.
Then you can hire the kids of the people who are done.
I probably have a couple of years on you. You got to keep going with it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
You mentioned something pre-show about software engineering is about business, not technology. Expand on that.
Yeah, I mean, I started my career obviously as a developer, and everything I focused on was quality of code and making sure that we were building to the best spec and all of that. And that's the right thing to do as a developer, right? You want to have pride in ownership and pride in your code base. So at the end of the day, I think oftentimes you lose sight of what's the business need right now. Like there's always a balance between perfection and getting something out the door, shipping, delivering to clients, iterating with clients. I think that's a really important piece, particularly in startup world, right? In startup world, you never have the opportunity to get something perfect. The balance has to shift to we're going to be iterative, we're going to be on market, we're going to work with our clients collaboratively to get this right, and they know that and they're signing up for that when you're early on. So perfection is not the answer. It's you know time to market with a balance of this works well and can be built on. So I think about sort of the business need at different stages of life as being super important. There's obviously later stage in life. You think about a data site. Data sites prided on being reliable and secure and the ultimate solution and uptime matters tremendously and all of these other things, right? It's not a place where you move fast and break things, right? Startup, move fast and break things, well trodden machine like a data site, not where you do that. That's part of actually the reason that we're keeping brand separation between BlueFlame and Datasite, right? We're going to be still in the innovation lab. We're still going to be moving really fast, whereas Datasite's obviously going to do what they do really, really well, and make sure that it lives up to that reputation and market demand.
So, Raj, what's your prediction of the A deal making space with advancements that you're doing at Blue Flame and AI in general? How do you see it evolving over the next 5 to 10 years?
Ooh, longer
What's your crystal
term,
ball say?
I mean, I think it's moving at such a great pace. I think a lot about vibe diligence. So we've all been in the vibe coding world, playing around with the cursors and the codexes and whatnot of the world, Claude codes, being able to chat with the code and see proposed changes and all that. There's an exact corollary in the M&A space where I'm working on a deal and I need to run analysis and I need to understand customer retention. And I can just chat with all of that, all of the documents and the entirety of the data room to conduct that diligence. That's vibe diligence. That's where we're moving towards. That's much nearer term actually than 5 or 10 years. What we see in 5 or 10 years is actually an entirely new asset class is going to emerge where agents are conducting private transactions. And on a 5 to 10 year basis, this is definitely possible. Sub 5 years, probably very difficult. But in the public trading world, you think about sort of stocks, right? There's lots of firms out there, including my former employers, where hedge funds are quantitatively trading stocks, right? Models figure out we want to buy this stock, sell this stock, real time. Again, moved from monthly to daily to hour to minute to second to nanosecond. That's going to happen in the private markets world. You're going to do that on private businesses. It was never doable before because of the entirety of a private market transaction is unstructured data. Like you don't have the same market data
Yes.
feeds and trading infrastructure and whatnot that you have in the public markets world. But when you have agents interacting with each other, right? There's legal agents doing doc review. There's agents doing customer retention review. There's agents that are doing the investment committee vote. You can build an entire firm that in private markets that conducts a transaction. And similarly, you can build an entire agent community within the investment banking world to take a company to market. They can interact with each other and execute that transaction. That's not going to be the majority of market, just like quant are not the majority of the public markets, but
Hmm.
that will be a new asset class that emerges.
Well, I like that terminology. You've heard of vibe coding? Well, vibe due diligence. I
Yep.
like it.
Yep. It's happening.
Raj, thank you for getting uncensored with us today. Man, you've had a fun journey that you've gone through, focused in the deal making, investment banking, M&A space. I'm excited to see as I know I'm gonna I'm sure in another 10 years I'll be writing another book about my next 30 ventures.
No, that's
Keep
exciting. Good for you.
automating that space for help me work through those. Before we wrap, what's some no BS advice you have for tech leaders out there who are trying to build, scale, or even just survive?
Competition's fierce, lots of money getting thrown at the AI space. If you're not in the AI space today, you're missing out. You got to get in the AI space. Like if you're a software developer, tech passionate, it's the only place to be operating right now. Assuming you're in that space, then you need to be going at it all out. It's the only way to do it. This is a once in a lifetime, once in a career opportunity to see this type of transformation, this amount of build, this amount of innovation. So enjoy it, jump on it, and if you fail, try again.
Awesome. Great advice, Raj. Thank you so much. That's it for this episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. I'm Steve Taplin. If you enjoyed the show, go ahead and hit subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, well, we're just going to go to your competitors. I'm sure they could use the info. Remember to fail hard, win big, and always build what matters. See you next time.
Thanks, Steve.
That's a wrap. Another great episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun doing this show. I love talking with great tech leaders. As a side note, if you're interested, check out my new book, Fail Hard, Win Big. This is the story of how I built 30 companies, failed on 20, and turned 10 into multi-million-dollar wins. The common thread with all of them was custom software. Also, if you need software development help out there, my company, Sonatify Technology, we deliver world-class software development engineers out of Latin America. We have a solid track record of helping companies launch better products and faster. Thanks again for listening. Appreciate it and appreciate you.